Hello, this is Professor Farley, and I'm doing this video to help you guys kind of understand what we're looking for when it comes to peer review. So I have a sample article here. We're just going to kind of read through it and see what types of comments we might be leaving that would, again, help our authors write and improve their papers. All right, this is, as you'll see here, an article published by Paul Goodman in 1964. As part of this book, Compulsory Miseducation. Obviously, the format of this and the tone and all kinds of things about this, since this is not an academic essay in the manner you guys are writing, is a little bit off. So I apologize for that. I just didn't want to use a student paper for this at this time. So bear with me as we sort of read through this. The idea, again, the main point of peer reviews is to help your peers improve their paper in any way you can. So we're going to be looking for specific feedback that helps them to do that. All right. So we'll take a look. The first part, if this is a proposal to abolish grading, it starts out by saying, let a half a dozen prestigious universities, Chicago, Stanford, the Ivy League, abolish grading and use testing only and entirely for pedagogic purposes as teachers see fit. This is for teaching purposes. Anyone who knows the frantic temper of the present schools will understand the transvaluation of values that would be affected by this modest innovation. For most students, the competitive grade has become the essence. The naive teacher points to the beauty of the subject and the ingenuity of the research. The shrewd student asks if he is responsible for that on the final exam. All right. So my first thing here will be to sort of consider probably why just these schools. Maybe explain more about how they differ in relation to your subject. That might be a good comment. So, in other words, what is it about Chicago, Stanford, and the Ivy League that should allow them to abolish grades as other schools wouldn't be able to do that? That isn't explained so far. All right, so that's something that might help them add some useful information. Here, this might be an interesting point that's taken here. The teacher is pointing to the subject and to the actual learning experience in and of itself, whereas the students are more concerned on what's the letter I'm going to get at the end of this class. And so very oftentimes that can be the case. So we can see this point, So you might be able to say, good point. One of the interesting things about this is that students are really trained in order to, look to the grades. So should any changes to grading be done earlier, i.e. At the K-12 education level, or else students might be confused. In other words, if teachers are pointing to learning and students are only concerned with the grades and passing and the sort of competitive element of the class, shouldn't that be a problem in K-12? Why are we focusing only on elite universities? Maybe we should consider this if we've trained students to sort of think and behave in a certain way all through their lives and then change it, that might cause some issues as well. All right, let's look at the next paragraph. Let me at once dispose of an objection whose unanimity is quite fascinating. I think that the great majority of professors agree that grading hinders teaching and creates a bad spirit, going as far as cheating and plagiarizing. I have before me the collection of essays examining in Harvard College, and this is the consensus. It is uniformly asserted, however, that the grading is inevitable. For how else will graduate schools, the foundations, the corporations know whom to accept, reward, hire? How will the talent scouts know whom to tap? Okay, so here we have a tension between the professors and between the people who are sort of taking the products of these professors, these students, and seeing, what they've learned. In other words, so if grades aren't used, then how can professors demonstrate that a student has learned the required information in their courses? So in other words, if we abolish grades, what are we going to replace it with? By testing applicants, of course, according to specific task requirements of the inducting institution, just as applicants of civil service or licenses for medicine, law, and architecture are tested. Why should Harvard professors do testing for corporations and graduate schools? Well, I would think then, if you're pushing the testing onto the people after you graduate, what are the requirements for graduation? Sorry about that. Is finished the desired courses, right? So in other words, if we're pushing testing down to someone else, presumably they will have finished their degree already. So how's Harvard going to know that a student should have finished their degree in the first place? Also, inducting institution, that testing can be dubious. So, is one test to replace, or can it accurately demonstrate a student's work over a 4-year period? So, you do have to pass the bar exam, for instance, in law to become a lawyer, but you will have to have completed your law degree then. So he's basically saying if you just complete law school and then you just have the bar exam, and that would tell you whether or not you're a lawyer. And likewise, the boards for medicine or others, the federal government has developed certain things for civil service and other things like that. So sort of skip the grading, if you're finished the program and then you complete and do this test, then you are able to, say, be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever else. So shifting from grading to that. But are those systems, of course, have drawbacks as well, being that, this is a very, very high stakes test. Someone who may prove himself to be very competent in many other ways may not be really good at these types of examinations, and so that might disadvantage somebody who is a very good worker and in many other ways fully capable of doing the job, but may not be under the rigors or be able to do the rigors of the test. All right, so there's a few comments there. I just want to illustrate a few points here. One, my goal here is really to show you what types of comments should you be putting on there. How are we thinking through things as we're reading? How are we thinking critically about what we're reading? And that's the number one thing, the number one purpose in these peer reviews. How can you read something and imagine what they're saying? Is what they're saying correct? Does it make sense? How does it fit in certain contexts? And other things. How can we challenge ideas, recontextualize them, add different perspectives to them in ways that will prompt the reader to think their argument and their paper and their writing through in ways that will improve it. Okay, so the number one thing a peer review does is it presents your in-depth analysis of the writing to show how do we improve this. Now here, these are all very much content-based. Again, because this is a totally different content format than what you guys were doing. I wasn't really talking about, should this information belong in that paragraph instead of this paragraph, etc. That wouldn't necessarily apply to this particular piece of writing compared to maybe something that you guys are doing. But these are the same things. The principle is absolutely the same. You're reading something, you're really thinking truly about what it's saying. Is this argument effective? Is it clear? Are they considering as many viewpoints? Do you have other things to add to the argument, to ask questions that you feel like need some kind of answers? Anything else like that you're doing as you're reading. You'll see here I only have 5 comments, but these comments are substantial. They show a level of critical thinking, and you guys should be doing so as you go through your papers as well. So far, from what I've seen, people may have 1 or 2 comments over the course of an entire paper. That will not be sufficient as we move throughout the semester. That does not show that you're really reading what these essays are saying. So please put in the time and the effort. Think through what the message is for each individual student, each individual paper, what they're saying and how they're saying it, and suggest specific things that they might be able to do, maybe move around some content, add some content, questions that might help them think and their argument through a little bit better. All right. Hopefully you guys improve on these as we go throughout the semester. I know these are very difficult and probably a little bit different format than you've done previously, but I just hope to see improvement as we go throughout.